Have you ever been sitting in a quiet room and suddenly realized your mind has defected to a completely different reality? Your body stays behind to perform the mundane tasks of life, while your consciousness boards a nonstop flight to nowhere. You aren't just thinking about lunch. You are deep into a complex narrative where you are the hero of a story. Psychology calls this the theater of the mind, a private internal stage where you perform for an audience of just one. Why does the human brain spend so much metabolic energy building intricate worlds that don't even actually exist in reality? In our high-pressure culture, our brains constantly seek an exit ramp from the overwhelming demands of our modern digital lives. We have to understand the biological hardware of the brain that makes these vivid internal movies possible for us today. When you aren't focused on a task, your brain switches to its idle setting, like a car engine left running. Neuroscientists call this the default mode network, which activates the moment you zone out and let your thoughts wander. Think of this network as a prehistoric flight simulator that helped our ancestors survive by imagining every possible hidden danger. Imagining a predator behind a bush was a survival strategy. Today, our predators are social rejection and professional workplace failure. We simulate difficult conversations because the brain wants to pre-solve problems, so we aren't caught off guard by the unknown. However, this mental simulation engine has a darker, exhausting side where we find ourselves trapped in horror movie mental scenarios. You're late for a text response and suddenly imagine everyone hates you. Writing a script where you are the villain. This is catastrophizing. The brain's negativity bias working overtime to cushion future pain by making you feel the sting now. We believe feeling pain now will lessen it later. But the brain doesn't work that way. You're just extending suffering. When you visualize a tragedy, your body releases cortisol as if it's happening, because it can't distinguish thought from reality. You suffer twice, once in the imaginary world and again in reality, keeping your nervous system in a constant panic. So why keep doing this? The answer is hero scenarios, which give us a massive addictive hit of the chemical dopamine. Think about having the perfect comeback or being interviewed for your genius. These fantasies are a chemical trophy for winning. In those moments, your brain releases dopamine, making you feel powerful for an achievement that actually required zero physical effort. For many Americans feeling powerless, these scenarios provide a sense of agency, putting them in charge of every uncertain outcome. Inside your head, you are the director, actor, and editor, which feels incredibly safe in a chaotic and unpredictable world. But when the theater of the mind takes over your day, we enter the territory of maladaptive daydreaming and isolation. This is when fantasy becomes the priority, and the imaginary world feels more rewarding than anything in the physical one. People spend hours lost in plots while real-world goals gather dust because the movie in their head is too good. In the US, where social isolation is rising, these fake scenarios often serve as a substitute for real human connection. If you're lonely, it's easier to imagine a perfect partner than to date because you can program them to understand. However, the more we retreat into ideal versions of people, the more we struggle with the flaws of real humans. We start to prefer the simulation because it is easier, falling in love with a created version instead of reality. This generational shift toward internal worlds is fueled by digital overstimulation and the curated perfect lives on our social feeds. When real life feels dull compared to Instagram, your brain compensates by creating a world even more exciting than digital. It's a coping mechanism for a world that feels too loud and demanding, a yellow bubble where we feel enough. But even a safe space can become a cage if you lose the key and can no longer stop the movie. The first step to taking back control is acknowledging that the theater is open and spotting when you drift away. Don't judge yourself for wanting to escape. Your brain is trying to care for you in its own weird way. Give your common scenarios specific names, like the conflict reel, to create distance between your identity and the imaginary story. By labeling the scenario, you separate yourself from it. You aren't in the movie. You've stepped back to just watch. Once labeled, ground your body back to the moment and remind your nervous system that you are physically safe here. The 5-4-3-2-1 technique is a sensory emergency brake that forces your brain to process real-world data right now. Look around and name 5 things you see. Find real physical objects rather than the images in your head. Touch 4 things nearby to reconnect with the physical world, feeling the texture of your clothes or a cold desk. Listen for 3 distinct sounds, the fridge, traffic, or your breathing, to snap your focus back to the immediate environment. This process forces your brain to re-engage with sensory input, quieting the default mode network and placing you in now. Smell 2 things, like coffee or a candle. Scent is a powerful reset that yanks your focus to the present. Taste 1 thing to confirm you are present and safe, signaling to your brain that the internal movie is officially over. Grounding isn't about killing your imagination or becoming a robot. It's about using your imagination as a productive tool. There's a massive difference between maladaptive daydreaming and creative visualization. One is an escape, the other is a blueprint. Elite athletes use fake scenarios to visualize a win, using the mental rehearsal to prepare their bodies for the task. They don't stay in the dream. They use it to prime their mind for action and bridge the what-if gap. If you imagine a great conversation, don't let it end in your head. Use that rehearsal to actually send the text. Your imagination is the spark, but your actions are the fuel. Without action, even the most beautiful scenario eventually fades. The theater can trick you into feeling like you've already achieved a goal, giving you the reward without the work. You get the dopamine of winning, so you stop pushing in reality, creating a dangerous cycle of hollow mental achievements. In America, we talk about the American dream, but a dream without a plan is just a pleasant, fleeting hallucination. Don't let your internal movie substitute for human effort. Being a person in a messy society is how we truly grow. Real life lacks an editor, and that lack of a script is exactly what makes the real world authentic and valuable. Imperfections and awkward pauses build your character, something you can't develop in a fake scenario where you always win perfectly. A fake scenario is static and limited by what you know. Reality has the power to surprise, challenge, and change you. How do we find the balance between dreaming and living? How do we enjoy the theater without being locked inside? Start by being intentional about your thoughts and asking, am I using this scenario to prepare for life or to hide? If you're hiding, turn the lights up, walk out of the theater, and step back into your real, breathing life. Real life has high stakes, but also tangible rewards. A fake hug isn't warm, and a fake victory won't pay rent. Don't let the hero in your head steal the spotlight from the work-in-progress version of you doing the hard work. The real you in the yellow hoodie is more interesting than any perfect character you could ever invent in secret. You can navigate reality without a script. You don't need to be perfect to be worthy and heard by others today. Next time you drift off, recognize your powerful mind, but then take a breath and feel your feet on the floor. Come back and join us in the present, because we need you here with all of your beautiful, real-world messiness. As great as the theater of the mind is, it's nothing compared to your real story where the ending isn't decided. The matinee is over, the lights are up, and the world is waiting. Go out there and make something real happen. Grounding is easier when we do it together. Subscribe to join our community of real-world explorers and never miss a step in your journey back to the now.